What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Curtis Review. This week we are discussing Atlanta, Season 4, Episode 8, titled The Goof Who Sat by the Door. This episode was directed by Donald Glover, written by Donald Glover, Francesca Sloan, and Karen Joseph Adcock. In furthering the world building of Atlanta, we see the BAN logo, seeing that this episode is featured programming from a fictional television channel. The Goof strays from the norm of Season 4, leaning more into the anthology-heavy episodes of Season 3. The title references a 1969 novel, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. The episode is shot, directed, and edited in the format of a documentary, even featuring real-life podcaster and culture chronicler Jenna Wortham as one of the main narrating voices. Jenna's known from the popular podcast Still Processing with Wesley Morris. Her effect here is pitch perfect, really adds to that sort of uncanny valley effect of the episode, which really starts to make you think, did this shit really happen? This mockumentary tells the story of Thomas Washington, a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young black animator from East Atlanta who has always dreamed of working for Disney. As he moves his way up the career ladder, he ends up making a movie featuring a cartoon prince, a la the actual storybook, The Little Prince, ends up getting recruited by Disney right after. In a bizarre turn, which is apparently a nod to Robert Downey Sr.'s movie, Putney Swope, Thomas ends up getting hired accidentally due to a name mix-up as the new CEO of Disney. They meant to hire this sort of plain vanilla white guy. They ended up having Thomas show up in the role, to which he would embark on his quest to make the blackest film ever made. Amongst footage of the Rodney King and LA riots, we get Thomas's backstory and upbringing, as well as his bizarre connection to the Disney character, Goofy. So much of the created photos and talking heads, the supplemental material really adds to that reality questioning effect this episode has on the viewer. Goofy is considered a black caricature by Thomas, which is actually explained by the real-life Art Babbitt who created Goofy and describes Goofy as akin to a black caricature, a shiftless, good-natured colored boy. Pretty damning for Goofy's lineage. As Thomas steps into the role of CEO, he's entrenched with the footage and coverage of the LA riots. He vows to create this movie, along with creating a character named Max Goof, named after his actual son, that will truly capture the experience of a black father and son in the 1990s. Now, the relevance of this episode heavily relies on whether or not you've seen the 1995 film, A Goofy Movie. If you're a millennial like me, and you grew up watching it ad nauseum, this episode was probably amazing for you. There are arguments to be made that Max shooting a basketball, wanting to be a all-star musician and rock star are comments on black excellence, as well as the limits placed on young black children by outsiders. Max and Goofy's fishing trip was supposed to be analog to the Green Book experience of the South, where black families would have to find places of refuge after dark. A Goofy movie was intended as something to spark a revolution, bring authentic black characters into the mainstream. 90s references are insane in this episode. Robert Townsend, Adina Howard, Harrison Ford, Brian McKnight, and then when Sinbad showed up, I lost my shit. How is this happening? I'm just kind of staggered at the achievement of this episode. So conceptual and just much to chew on here. Fascinating and so goddamn funny. Nearing the finale of the episode, the narrative shifts into Thomas's downfall. He tried to keep up with it all, culture, his family life, but he ends up losing his wife and nearly losing his son. More grainy footage supports Thomas's meltdown, as when he's being questioned about his abilities in front of a boardroom meeting, he responds to them, "Of course I am. I'm Goofy." Yeah? They do finish a Goofy movie, but it's a completely skewered and not at all to his vision of the movie. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Everything he set out for, everything he tried to accomplish was just swept under the rug. title cards at the end of the episode talk about Thomas's car being found at the bottom of a lake, along with cartoonishly oversized shoes, gloves. It implied that either he turned into Goofy or was thinking he was becoming Goofy. Emotional music plays out the episode as we get talking heads and footage of Thomas's family reminiscing on his history and his impact, as well as clips from a Goofy movie. They reference the "damn bitch, you live like this" meme, which is akin to Atlanta's fashion in taking obscure cultural moments and internet memes and blowing them up into these thought-provoking and hilarious television experiences. Couldn't help but have a name at the tip of my tongue the entire time I was watching this, and I wanted to bring up Floyd Norman, who I thought maybe was the person being referenced here, but he is actually a real person. He still works for Disney as the longest term and first Black animator to work at Walt Disney Studios. Thomas's descent into madness over trying to create the blackest film ever made is bleak and sometimes very, very funny. His pursuit of taking a black caricature and then himself in the process turning into that same black caricature is telling and damning of the industry. These executives chewed up this young, idealistic, talented black man and spit him out without ever taking him seriously or letting him carry his vision out the way he wanted to. His abilities were called into question, even by his own staff. He was made to seem unfit to lead. Don't believe this would have happened to a white executive at Disney in the 1990s. What makes cartoon characters of white or black descent? Characters like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z come to mind, along with others. Something to think about. This was another episode of Curtis Review. We covered Atlanta, Season 4, Episode 8. Please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, peace.